Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I hope you're doing well. We have kind of a big week. We are here talking about the astrology of the week ahead, and we are talking about June 9th through June 15th. And so we have got Jupiter entering Cancer. We have got our Sagittarius Full Moon, which is square the nodes. And then we also are closing out this week with Jupiter in Cancer, square Saturn in Aries. So it is a dynamic week, and there's even more than what I just mentioned, but those are kind of the overarching big cosmic conversations that are happening. So let's weave our way through this week a little bit and just feel into some of the opportunities for us to co-create with. I hope that you are doing well as Jupiter enters Cancer. So this happens on the 9th. So we start the week out with Jupiter entering a new sign. So this is its annual shift. Jupiter enters Cancer. As that happens, Mercury, who's also in Cancer, has just entered on the 8th, is squaring Neptune in Aries. And Venus, who is in Taurus, is squaring Pluto in Aquarius. So it is a bit of a dynamic entrance into this week. And it is really significant, especially that Mercury is squaring Neptune on this day that Jupiter enters Cancer. Jupiter enters Cancer, so of course it's just before and just after a planet like Jupiter enters a new sign that we're really feeling these shifts. So it's leaving Gemini, air, and entering Cancer, water. It's leaving that plane of the intellect and expression and communication, especially a sign that likes to figure things out and likes to have ideas and likes to plan. It's entering a sign that likes to feel, that likes to flow, that likes to actually move a bit slowly. So it's a very different energy for Jupiter. And as that happens, as we're kind of shifting rhythms with Jupiter, I've made several videos on Jupiter, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but just reminders that we're talking about this archetype of our kind of inherent wisdom and faith that we can connect with, and it can really expand us into our lives. Jupiter is about expansion, and it's about expansion coming from ultimately our connection to spirituality and the way that contributes to philosophy, spirituality, and understanding and meaning making, and really just an inherent abundance in life. And that's coming into Cancer. But as that happens, that Mercury in Cancer, and Mercury in Cancer, is very much other ways of knowing. Mercury in Cancer needs to feel, it needs to express itself with the emotions. If Mercury in Cancer is not allowed to connect to the emotions, the emotional, and that usually also means connecting to the body, because that can be part of how we connect to emotions and slowing down for that, then that Mercury can get really confused and it can really struggle to express to oneself what you might be feeling. And then if we're having trouble expressing it to ourselves, it can be really complicated expressing it to others. So that said, when Mercury in Cancer is allowed to do its Cancer watery thing and feel its way through and be in somewhat liminal realms, use arts, cry a little, laugh a little, slow down and not have too much pressure on it, then that Mercury can be poetry. And so that Mercury, however, is squaring our Neptune in Aries. So this, the beginning of the week could be a little bit of emotional confusion. It could be a push and pull between feeling like we know what's happening and not knowing what's happening. We could be a little watery. If that's the case, just allowing it. If it's not the case, just allowing it. Cancer wants to be allowed to feel what it feels. This happening as Jupiter is entering Cancer and Mercury talking to that Neptune, we want to just allow, absolutely not react. And we also have Venus in Taurus, also energy that is asking us to slow down because she just wants to take pleasure in what she's feeling. And the sensual awareness and sensual presence is how that Venus wants to bring us into embodying our values and even understanding our values. She's been on such a journey in Aries, and we've been on such a journey in Aries, really potentially rebirthing new values, new self desire. And now that desire wants to be embodied and brought into our life. And right away, as she starts this journey this week, she squares Pluto in Aquarius, suggesting that there is something about embodying these values, and especially desire, because that Venus was really on a journey of desire over these past weeks and months. And so as she comes into this square with Pluto, it really is an opportunity to actually see what's the authentic desire that is going to go forward, and what are the parts that are not going to go forward. Pluto in Aquarius is about our soul drive. It's about deep desire that's actually also somewhat unconscious, and yet especially in Aquarius and in this practice that we are all in of awakening, it's becoming more and more conscious. And yet transiting Pluto is about this long journey of discovering what that word authenticity even means. And now it talks to Venus as we open up this week. So there's something for us to learn. All of that to say, I mean, it's 6 minutes and I'm just talking about day one of this week. It's quite dynamic, and the energy is asking us to slow down as we move through it. And as we slow down, there might be some beautiful energy that comes. I mean, this is Cancer, this is Venus in Taurus, and yet those squares are saying there's also things that need to release. There's also things that aren't coming forward. And we might be made aware of some of those things in our lives. It always depends on our own natal chart and where this is falling, but we're just talking about these general themes that we're going to move through the week with. And as it shows up in your life, if it does, then that's where you can kind of sink in. And if nothing is being activated in your chart, these energies are still very much present, but they might not manifest as strongly. Okay. That said, we're all probably going to feel Jupiter switching into Cancer. And then we move to the 10th, and this brings the exactness of Mars trine Chiron. Okay, so Mars is in Leo, 26 degrees, talking to Chiron, who's at 26 degrees of Aries. This has been building for a couple of days, but now it's exact. And so this is also important because we have fire desire meeting fire healing. This trine is about Chiron allowing us to feel our healing self. This Chiron's the wounded healer and is a deep wound. And in Aries, it's helping us all to really, say, I'm allowed to have desire. I'm allowed to have desire, and I'm allowed to pursue it. And it talks to Mars and Leo, who says, heck yeah, I'm allowed to pursue it. I'm actually allowed to have a lot of joy out of that desire. And the trine suggests that this is just energy that's flowing. And the next day, the moon is going to have moved into its position for the full moon, and it's going to be coming into that trine. So there's also something about illuminating our desires and for our new dreams, for the expansive self, because on the 11th we have our Sagittarius full moon. So Jupiter comes into Cancer. We've got those kind of dynamic conversations, and then we come into our full moon on the 11th, and this is a full moon that is inviting us to expand into our new dreams. They are soul deep dreams, and we need to be honest with ourselves about how these dreams are really what we desire at this point in our life. It doesn't mean they need to manifest in the next day. You don't need to have your plan. You just need to open to them. This is about the imagination. This is about the fire. This is about just letting yourself daydream. Sagittarius gets to daydream. And daydreaming could actually be wonderful because this full moon is square the nodes. And so then over the next 2 days, the sun is going to come into its exact square with those nodes. And so that square is, especially with the full moon and then the 2 days after it this week, it's a dynamic week. I don't know how many times I can say that, but there's once more. There is some clarity that does potentially want to come around what these new desires are, what these new dreams are, and why they might be different. Now, we have spent months and months shedding. We have done so much shedding with that Saturn when it was in Pisces, also that Neptune, also Venus retrograde. We have done so much shedding, so much grief tending. And while there, I know, is still grief tending going on, there is something now about really allowing the birthing of the imagination and the creative impulse to just see into what the new dreams are. Charlotte's having a snack, but it's a little bit distracting, so we're going to just have her snack after. Or she's going to insist on her snack. It's never just astrology with Iris. It's always astrology and animals on Madrona's polls. And it is an exciting time. This is an exciting week. It's dynamic. There are a lot of squares, and those squares of this week are asking us to be honest and to release, because then this full moon is going to build into that square of Saturn and Jupiter. So then after that, Jupiter will then move into its square with Neptune. But first we have the square between Saturn and Jupiter. So we're really going to feel this from the 13th. I mean, we'll be feeling it all week, but the 13th is when, after the full moon, is when it starts getting more exact, and it is exact on the 15th. And this is Jupiter in Cancer squaring Saturn in Aries. Okay, so this square is part of their ongoing cosmic conversation. It's part of their ongoing relationship with each other. And at this stage, there is something that's being shown to us, because that Saturn isn't alone. That Saturn is conjunct Neptune. And Neptune is dissolving Saturn. It's dissolving part of the way that we have orientated our sense of self so that we can build new structures for a kind of spiritual upgrade to our sense of self and how we embody that in this life. But remember that we know that's a process. That's a process underway through the dissolving and the rebirthing. That's going on and off until February, March of next year. And then we're fully embodying the flame of Saturn and moving forward with it. So this is an ongoing process of that dissolving and rebirthing, of structures kind of collapsing. In Aries, I mean, yes, of course, in the world, but in Aries, it's also very personal. Okay. And so especially on our journeys of self-inquiry, what's being shown to you at the end of this week, but it's absolutely coming out of the full moon, about what the heck it means to move from a heart-centered path at this stage in your life, and what might have been in the way, whether that is just internally in your world of how you've organized your sense of self, and or relationships and work and all those demands of daily living, right? But this is about our spirit, Aries, talking to our heart in love and nurture in Cancer. So there is something in this square that we end the week out that's coming out of the full moon that is related to those new dreams, that is related to how we are yearning to make meaning, yearning to expand, yearning to connect and belong through the seeker spirit that is Sagittarius. And where the heart needs to expand for that path, and then you've got a whole year to work with Jupiter, bringing you home to yourself on that path. But it starts out with this square that really wants to bring us in to noticing what we also might need to let go of in order to walk that heart-centered path. And again, that could be attachments, that could be emotional attachments, that could be ways that we have organized our life, and it's a process. And one other piece I would like to mention is that we have got Vesta stationing direct on the 14th, okay? And before that, on the day of the full moon, Venus, who's moved on from her square with Pluto, we're back on the 11th, we're gone non-linear now. Venus is opposite that Vesta while she's retrograde. So Venus is in Taurus midweek, opposite Vesta 2 days before she stations direct in Scorpio. And that's my hands are going like this because that's how I'm feeling this. So that's just this lovely, especially because it comes after Venus has had that square with Pluto, after there's been that wake up to about the authentic embodying of our values that allows us to be present in our lives. Let's just say that again. This authentic embodying of our values so that we can be present in our lives. Because I don't know about you, but when I look back at my life, there's a lot in which I was not fully present for, right? And that has to do with survival. That has to do with the ways that we have to survive. And yet at this point where we are now, that Venus wants to be feeling in her body how she's connected to the present moment, smelling through the senses, tasting life, feeling it with their hands, seeing the colors, right? Imagining the colors. And in order for that to happen, we start the week out with that square that Pluto says, okay, yes, and we have to get real about something. We have to awaken to something and see something. And then Saturn says to Cancer, yeah, we got to get real about something. We want to move with our heart. And during that full moon, there's this opposition between Vesta, who is all about healing our sacred inner creative flame that connects us directly to the goddess and the sacred hearth and all the different metaphorical and spiritual and psycho-spiritual layers of hearth and fire in that sacred flame that we have. And she has been retrograde since March. I wrote it down, since March 18th. Okay, and so this Vesta is so slow, and she talks to that Pluto, and she talks to that Venus, and they have this mingling of the divine feminine, and that Vesta is deep in the sacrum. She's deep in the roots. She's deep in the core of our being. And she is helping us to heal by, she's been on a journey since March, allowing those depths, allowing our own depths of our journeys, the way that we have had messy intimacies, the way that we have struggled to learn about power, struggled to learn about desire, struggled to learn about what the heck a balance of power in relationship and intimate relationship means, what it means to be integrated with all of those depths that most of us get taught we're not supposed to own or claim or even let ourselves see, let alone other people see. And she's talking to Venus, who is helping us to embody our values and come into presence. Okay, and then she stations direct. Vesta stations direct. So we also have the shift of that divine feminine energy on the 14th. Okay, noting that that's going on while we're coming into that strong square of Saturn and Jupiter. So it is a dynamic week, to say the least. And it really is one to, we have that Sagittarius full moon. We have a lot of Jupiter energy. It is time to follow the intuition, feel into the intuition, create space for the intuition. And I am sending such blessings for the week ahead, and see you soon.